new month, which means it's time to get rid of even more stuff. This month I'm going to be focusing on back to school stuff, but even if you do not have school going kids, you can still declutter a lot of this stuff. It applies to everyone. So here are 10 things that you can sling in September. Let's go. Hi guys, it's Laura, and every month on this channel I share 10 things that you can declutter. It is to take the guesswork out of decluttering for you, so that if you are trying to have a clutter-free home but you're just stuck and you're not sure how to move forward, you're not sure what to tackle next, this is the playlist. These are the videos for you. First on the chopping block this month is school supplies or office supplies. So kids have gone back to school and you may be tempted, as I often am, to go through the clearance rack with all the stationery because it's all on clearance at this stage, or maybe you bought stuff and you didn't realize that you already had plenty on hand, like I did. Now's a great time to go through all of that stuff and declutter what you do not need. You can donate it to a good cause, or you can do what I like to do, which is to create a separate box, storage container, whatever, to put all of that stuff into, so that you know for next year where you can go. You can shop your own supply first instead of running out and buying more stuff that you don't need. Donate what you're happy to get rid of, and then corral the rest, put it in some form of container, put it in a place where you won't forget about it, so that when next year rolls around, you're ready to go and you'll be ahead of the game. Next up then is outdated technology. Listen, the kids these days in school, how old am I? Kids these days in school are using tablets, they're using laptops, they are learning through apps and online services. Even if they're actually in school, if they're in a classroom setting, they're learning a lot of stuff online or in apps, and technology moves so quickly. So go through all of your old gadgets. You don't have to go through all of them, but let's say you have a DVD collection. My daughter wanted to borrow these from the library recently, and I had to actually stop and text my husband to ask him if we had any way to actually play DVDs. But maybe you've got DVDs but no DVD player, or you've got a DVD player but you don't really watch DVDs anymore. We mostly stream all of our shows and films and stuff these days. Maybe you've got old cassette tapes or VHS, fax machines. They still use fax machines here in the US. That was a strange one for me. Pick a subcategory of stuff. Maybe it is DVDs, maybe it is old phones. You've got some old phones lying around. Donate them. Make sure you wipe any information off them first, but donate them or recycle them, or do whatever you feel is best with them. Like I said, technology moves so quickly that even stuff from last year can be almost obsolete at this stage, and we all have cords and cables and chargers and old like games consoles, things like that. Like I said, cassettes, things that we no longer need, we no longer use, maybe they don't even work anymore. It's time to say goodbye to those. Embrace the 21st century, folks. Though, having said that, I do love a retro games console. We have a Nintendo 64 and a Sega Mega Drive. What are they called over here in the US? A Sega Genesis, I think. Anyway, but you know, stuff that you're no longer using, stuff that is outdated, you know you're not going to use, that's the stuff to get rid of. Next on the list then is water bottles. Again, kids have gone back to school. You may have bought them new water bottles, or maybe just you yourself have a lot of old water bottles lying around. And yes, they're great to reuse them, but over time, if you're not kind of diligent with the cleaning and stuff, they can get really grotty and grubby and full of germs and mold and bacteria. Not something that you want to be ingesting into your body. So if you've got old ones, particularly with plastic bottles, like really these should not be reused more than once, because over time the plastic actually starts to leach into the water. So if you have been just using a regular old plastic bottle, you should probably get rid of that now. But the same goes, like I said, for even flasks and things like that. Over time, particularly ones where the straws are really hard to clean, there can be a buildup of mold and other not so nice things in there. So you've got more than you need and they're still in good condition, donate them. If you've got old ones that you do not want to use anymore, maybe they're just not your favorite, you don't like drinking out of them, you've found your ideal water bottle and you don't need the rest of them anymore, it's time to let the rest of them go. Try and recycle them, obviously, if you can, but it may be a case where you have to trash it. But get all of this stuff that you no longer need or want and is potentially harmful to your health and the health of your children. Get that stuff out. Okay, let's move on to the mudroom for this next one. Bags and backpacks, another great time to go through those. Either backpacks for your kids, backpacks for yourself. I have several. Or even reusable shopping bags if they are just worn, ripped, they're not in good condition anymore, or you just have a surplus. It's funny because when I decluttered this mudroom, a lot of the comments were about how many backpacks my daughter has. People can be quite judgmental about how many bags a person owns. But listen, if you love them and you use them, it's fine to keep them. My daughter is very much an accessories type of person. She likes her clothes, she likes her bags, she likes her hats, she likes her sunglasses. What's the harm? I did still declutter a few, but she does actually use this if we travel or if she's just going to a friend's house, if she's going to the pool. School, obviously she has her backpack with her at the minute. But yeah, if you use them and you love them, fine to keep them. But if there are a few that you find that you're not using, ones that have fallen to the back or to the bottom of a closet or something, or bags that you just don't use anymore for whatever reason, pass them on to someone who will, or again, try and recycle them if you can. But don't judge other people for how many bags they have. Like I said, if you use them and love them, that's all that matters. Okay, let's move upstairs for this next one. Let's talk your kids' socks and underwear, or again, if you don't have kids, your own socks and underwear, maybe even shoes too, because over the summer, kids are generally outside a lot more, they're playing a lot more, they're running around a lot more. So things like socks and underwear and shoes can take a bit of a beating. And when it's time to go back to school, again, occasionally we'll buy new school shoes, or maybe they wear a school uniform or something like that. And all of the socks and shoes and flip-flops and things that got a battering over the summer can end up just kind of tossed in a corner, forgotten about in all of the back to school hype. Weed out all of those ones, you know, the socks that have holes in them, the underwear that have holes in them, the shoes that have holes in them, all of the things that kind of got one last hurrah this summer. They have performed their duty, they have done their service, it's time to retire them. Now, if you can kind of patch them or mend them in some way, if there are shoes that you can resole, absolutely do. But if they're basically just rags at this stage, or there's just no hope for them, they can't be salvaged, you can just say goodbye to those ones. Kids go through stuff like that so quickly, they wear through things so quickly, and they grow so quickly. So it feels like there's just this constant stream of clothes. Certainly in our house it does. Anyway, it feels like there's a constant stream of clothes, and you just buy new clothes and then they grow out of them like a week later, particularly with shoes. And they're so expensive. So like I said, if you can mend them in some way, definitely do that. But declutter this category of items. Make sure that the socks and underwear, and maybe shoes if you want to go through those as well, that your kids have or that you have, are in good serviceable condition. And now let's move on, because my knees are just, oh no, I'm not built for being on the ground anymore. Okay, let's take it back to outdated stuff, but sticking with the whole kind of educational theme, let's declutter reference or educational material. And here we're talking about both physical stuff and digital stuff, though you can just focus on one or the other. But maybe you or your kid has old notes or old books that they no longer need, school books or course books, college books, things like that. Maybe you have some old encyclopedias lying around. Does anyone remember, you used to, like when I was a kid, you could collect, there was a magazine that you could get, you know, every week or every month or whatever, and you had to build it up into a big collection. So I used to get one, I can't remember the name of it, but it was about dinosaurs. And each week you would collect like a little part of a dinosaur, and then at the end of the series, which means of course you had to go and get every single one, but at the end you were able to build like a dinosaur, I think it was a T-Rex skeleton type of thing. Does anyone remember those, where you used to have to collect something weekly? Anyway, if you have something like that lying around, you can go through those and declutter them. Same goes for like old phone books and things like that. When was the last time you used a phone book to look something up? And remember the digital aspects too. Maybe you took an online course, or maybe you like typed out some notes if you took a course, or if your kids are taking a course and they're typing up their notes. Maybe you've got a lot of stuff, educational stuff, either online or on a laptop or on a computer or something. You've got some files saved. Listen, I still have a lot of my old notes. Yeah, back in my college days, years and years and decades ago now. But you can go through those and whittle down the ones that you don't want anymore. Like, are you ever going to reference those? Or maybe you went to a conference or an event or a seminar or something and you took some notes. Are you really going to reference that material? If the answer is a genuine yes, if you do want to keep your encyclopedias, if you do want to keep your college notes from way back in the day, that's fine, but do at least think about when was the last time you referenced this stuff? Is it outdated? Is there more up-to-date information? Could you access this information online? Chances are yes. So go through it with a critical eye, and anything that you don't think that you're going to reference in the future, or anything that you think is out of date by now, let that stuff go. Just delete it, clear it off, recycle it, whatever you need to do. Sometimes this can be a scary one because you think, you know, oh, all of that information, there's a lot of information there, or I paid a lot of money for that course or that class or whatever, and it can feel difficult, like really tough to let that stuff go. But again, so much of that information is readily available online, and like I said, the chances of you ever referencing that material again are generally slim. You know, I have all of my college notes from when I studied law, and that's great, and I always thought, you know, oh, I'll go back and reference those because it's always good to have a foundational knowledge. But really, do I really need my notes from Law 101? Like, when I've advanced so far past that now, I'm not even practicing law anymore. But even when I was, like, the foundational, the basic stuff, I don't need to keep that information. Now, listen, I'll hold my hands up, I do still have that, but I really should. I'm going to take my own advice and go through all of those notes and get rid of the ones that I'm just never going to use again. So yeah, reference material, educational material, either physical or digital, you know, notes that you took, textbooks that you had to read, anything like that, workbooks, etc. Declutter those. Kind of sticking with the reference material or note-taking material then, folders and binders that you're not using, and particularly those plastic pockets, you know, the plastic sleeves that are inside them. If you are like I was back in the day, you possibly have a collection of empty ones that you're not using, but you keep them because they're kind of useful. You might need them in future, but you just end up with this massive pile of them that you're probably never going to use. So go through anything that you would use to kind of contain papers or notes. So like I said, folders, binders, any like file, those hanging file things. Go through all of those. If they're empty and they've been empty for a long time and you cannot think of a legitimate use for them, as in you don't have a specific use in the very near future for them, you can probably say goodbye to those, recycle them. If you do need them at some point in the future, they're relatively inexpensive to repurchase. But let's face it, we're really never going to use them again. So go through them, maybe even go through the contents of them. Just because a folder has papers in it doesn't mean that you need to keep it. You may not need those papers anymore. But definitely, if you have empty ones and they've been empty for a while, declutter them. Oh, I used to have so many of those plastic pocket sleevey things. So many, like hundreds. Never use them. Next up then is antibacterial everything. Gels, sprays, lotions, wipes, all of that sort of stuff. You may have old ones, maybe old wipes that have dried up. You may have hand sanitizers or something that you just don't like to use for whatever reason. You don't like the smell. Maybe they irritate your skin, something like that. Maybe you've got old ones that you think have passed their prime, or maybe you even have, you know, a spray bottle or two that are actually empty. Back to school season is germ season, okay? It is sniffle season, it is stuffy nose season. As soon as all the kids congregate in one place, they start spreading around their germs, and the first few weeks of back to school can usually be full of colds and other little sniffles and ailments like that. So you want to make sure that the antibacterial stuff, the sanitizing stuff that you do have on hand is effective, it is topped up, you are using it, it is kind of in good condition, or it is something that you actually want to use or that your kids will actually use. And you know, decluttering isn't just about getting rid of stuff, it's about making more space for the things that you're actually using. So make sure that you have easy access to this stuff. If you do need it, now might also be a good time to check on things like tissues and cold and flu medication. Again, it's not about getting rid of something, it's just about making sure that what you have on hand is something that you actually love and will use. And like I said, this is high germ season, so you want to make sure that you have easy available access to the stuff that you will potentially need in the very near future. It's also coming into winter here in the Northern Hemisphere, so it's just kind of general cold and flu and virus and bacteria season. Go through your stash and make sure that the stuff that you do have on hand is, you know, topped up, it is in good condition, that you're actually going to use it, and that it is in a place where it is easy to access. As someone who has just got over a very bad infection, I can tell you that you want to have all of this stuff on hand so that it is easy to grab as soon as you feel even the tiniest little bit of a sniffle or a tickle or anything like that. Once again, oh, my knees, my legs. I never learn. Okay, I'm someone who's pretty ruthless with this next one, but kind of as an overall category, it is something that I struggle with, but that is photographs of your kids. Now, I'm pretty good with photographs of my daughter, like just decluttering ones that are blurry or duplicates or whatever, but photographs in general or video clips, I have tens of thousands. But go through old photographs, and again, these can be physical or they can be digital. Maybe you've got old school photographs of your kids, you know, they're taken every year, and in my opinion, certainly the ones in our area, they're not good quality. Maybe you have old yearbooks, things like that. Maybe you just have physical photographs of your kids around. Now, this can obviously be a very sentimental category, but chances are you do have pictures of your kids, particularly when they were younger, that are just blurry, or that you have a million of essentially the same thing because you were trying to catch them do something cute, or you know, they're in the middle of something but then they like tear off and that's the end of that and you just have this blur on your screen. But there are so many photographs that we collect of our kids. Again, if you don't have kids, maybe you have pets, or maybe you just go back over photographs of yourself or your family or your friends. What I would say here is to pick a random month and focus on that month, or just pick up one photo album and focus on that. I would say probably the older the photographs are, the better, because ones that we've taken recently can, because they're kind of fresh in our memory, we can still feel that very close tie to them, whereas ones that are years old, we may not even remember why we took them, or we may not remember where they were taken. We may, like I said, have taken multiple. We may be looking and thinking, why do I have 20 pictures of my baby's toes on my phone? So it's a good time to just pick a very specific amount of time, or like I said, a specific album or something, and go through those and weed out the ones that you no longer need. Now, I'm obviously not asking you to just delete all of your kids' photographs, but like I said, those ones that are blurry, those ones that are duplicates, those ones that they just don't have the same draw for you anymore, and you have thousands of other ones like I do, those are the ones that can go. Free up space on your phone or in your photo album for new photographs. Go out and make some new memories. This next one is probably my favorite, because there are certain categories of things where you can declutter them, you can go through everything, but you know in your heart of hearts that it's just going to be re-cluttered again, that you're going to have more of that stuff coming in. And papers is a very good example. No matter how many times you go through it, you're going to get more papers coming into your home. It's one of just never-ending things that you have to keep on top of, you really have to maintain. But this category that I'm talking about is something that you can just do once and then it's done. And not only is it done for good, but you actually will be able to free up some extra time for yourself to either just relax put your feet up or to go and engage in an activity that you truly love, that truly lights you up. So what is it, you may ask? It is to declutter one thing, at least one thing, from your schedule. Just get rid of it completely. It could be, you know, if you've got school going kids, maybe it's PTA meetings. Maybe you've just decided that you're not going to go to those anymore. Maybe you did some volunteer work with the school that you signed up for something, or every year you were the one in charge of, the class party, whatever, I don't know. But even if you don't have school going kids, maybe you are part of some committee or a board, or you do some volunteer work that right now in your phase of life, it's just not for you anymore. Maybe you signed up for a class, maybe you attend a book club, anything like that, that for the stage of life you're in, it's just not serving you anymore. Cancel, resign, say no, step down, do whatever you have to do to get that obligation, that unwanted obligation off your plate once and for all. Like I've said, decluttering isn't just about getting rid of stuff, it's about making space for the things that you actually use and love. So if there's something in your diary, like on your planner, a weekly commitment or even a one-time commitment that you know you don't want to be part of, then say no right now. Get yourself out of it in any way that you can, obviously politely, and free up that space for other priorities. Declutter the unwanted so that you can fill up on the truly wanted. Those are my 10 for this month. If you want to catch up on all the others, I will link to that playlist for you. If you want any other decluttering tips or advice, check the description. I will have lots of other videos and playlists listed for you. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because this is what I'm all about here. Decluttering, minimizing, helping you live a simpler, happier life. Until next time then, go raibh míle maith agaibh, agus feiceann mé sibh go luath. Slán!